About 4 years ago, I launched my very first architecture drawing course. And along with the full course, I also launched a mini drawing course that had 3 of my very favorite tips to instantly improve in your architecture drawing. Now, since the launch of this course, I have not only given birth to the twins that I was pregnant with at the time, I've also upgraded my technology, learned a little bit more about how you guys like to learn, and I've drawn a lot more architecture. So I'm excited to now be working on the update for the full architecture drawing course. Along with this, I thought it was only appropriate that I also update the mini course for you as well. This time, instead of having the 3 separate videos with separate homework for each day, I decided to combine it all into one complete, concise video, and I hope that you will find it just as useful. So without further ado, let's dive into my 3 favorite tips for drawing architecture. Oh, and as a side note, there's a special surprise for those of you who wait all the way to the end, so don't click away too early. Step 1, you want to check your perspective. Now, there are a couple of different views that work well for architecture. Due to the very structured, geometric nature of architecture, we want to work with that, and so we're going to position ourselves carefully. Now, what does that mean? That means basically that a head-on view of your architecture is one of the best ways to approach it. You don't want to be slightly off and have that almost perfect look. You also don't want to be slightly tilted this way and have it look like your building's starting to fall over. Even if you draw the Leaning Tower of Pisa like this, it will look wrong because it's not what we expect and it's not what we want with our architecture. So make sure that if you're drawing from the front, you're perfectly lined up and everything is looking nice and square. You shouldn't see kind of a hint of the side on one side or be a little bit off. Make sure that horizon line is nice and straight. Well, let's say that you don't want to draw straight on and you want to have something with a little bit more variety and a little bit more depth. Then you want to over-exaggerate your position and go at what we call a 3/4 view. That's where you can see part of the side and a good chunk of the center. But you don't want it to be just slightly off. You want it to be a good chunk off. Again, working with geometric shapes means that if it's slightly off, it feels uncomfortable to your viewer and thus is less pleasing to the eye. So either be straight on or commit to that more of a side view. But as you approach your new architecture drawing, just make sure that you're lined up. Whether you are sitting down in front of it, doing some plein air drawing, or you're looking for that perfect reference image, you want to make sure that you're working from a good spot. All right, tip 2, I'm going to teach you to use the oldest art tool in the book. Whatever you're drawing with. So in this case, I have a pencil. If you're using a pen to do kind of some sketchy urban style, this works as well. You're going to use this tool not only to draw and capture it on paper, but also to capture the angles of your drawing. Now, if that sounds totally confusing and crazy, you're not alone. I thought it was crazy when I first heard it. Let me show you, it really works. It's amazing. So what you're gonna do, I'm even like rolling up my sleeves, I'm getting ready. So what you're gonna do, I'm looking outside at my neighbor's house or you can do this with a reference image as well. And what you're gonna do is you're going to point out towards the house. You're gonna lock your elbow. I like to lock my wrist as well, just to keep it as consistent as possible. And you're going to line up the side of your drawing utensil with the edge of whatever angle you're working on. This is especially helpful if you're working with like a peaked roof or dormers, or if you're working from that 3/4 view because you've got some depth and perspective that you're dealing with there. Again, locked elbow, locked wrist, and I'm going to transfer that to my paper. Now, if you're not sure if you captured it correctly, definitely do it more than once, but it is one of those ways that you can, without having any extra tools, without doing anything fancy, perfectly capture the angles that you're trying to draw. This takes a little bit of time to get practice with. Some people like to have like a second pencil or use a ruler in order to capture the angle and then be able to draw when they get over to their paper. I just kind of stand there and I capture it. I move it over. Usually I have a point of reference, whether it's another line in the roof that I am lining up with. So I really only need to figure out where the line goes at the end, and then I'm able to connect those 2 points. So for example, if I were to be working on the top of the roof and I'm trying to capture the angle on one side, I'm going to find out where that roof begins and ends just with my drawing. And I'm going to go in, find the angle for that last section, transfer it to my paper. And since I already know where this starts, I just need to figure out where this one ends. And then I can take my ruler and attach those. So hopefully that made sense and it wasn't too confusing. There are actually so many interesting ways that you can use your pencil in order to create more accurate, beautiful drawings. And I'm not just talking about using the graphite on the end. Actually, that might be kind of a fun full video. Maybe I could do a full video on the different ways that you can use your pencil as a tool for architecture drawing. If you'd be interested in that, let me know in the comment section down below. As I mentioned before, all of this kind of stuff is included in the full course, but that might be just kind of a fun, short little video. Let me know if you'd like to hear that. All right, we've got our good perspective captured. We're in a good spot. Everything's lined up nicely. We've captured our angles with our pencil. Now it's time to finish everything off. One of the biggest stumbling blocks that I see with those who are drawing architecture for the first time, whether they're doing kind of venue illustration or they're just digging into architecture and just kind of interested in that, is that they fall into inconsistency. And by that I mean they work really hard on this beautiful architecture, and then we come to the foliage around it, and it's like they freeze and panic, and then they just go with broccoli trees, or clouds that look like cotton balls, or like a 7-year-old drew it. Don't you dare draw the sun in the back of your architecture drawing. But what do we do instead of that? First of all, just keep your head on. You're drawing what you see with the architecture. You're going to do the same thing for your foliage, for any accessories that are there, for any details that you're adding. So look at the rest of your architecture and repeat it and keep it consistent. Now, does that mean that you need to draw every single lump and bump in your architecture? No, that is not what that means. That's not what I'm saying. However, if you do take the time to draw out the texture of every single brick, it would be a good idea to repeat that same care with your foliage, with your shutters, with your shingles, stuff like that, in order to keep everything looking consistent. If you have a walkway, you're going to want to have some of that same consistency. And I'm not saying you have to go crazy and draw every single leaf of every single tree, but if you've put a lot of care and detail into your architecture, it is only fair for the architecture and for the beauty of the work you've already done that you put some additional care and work into your foliage and the other details, whether it's a walkway, fencing that's around it. Make sure that you're just consistent throughout. So if you are one of those who tends to freeze up when you start drawing something that's a little bit different or a little bit out of your comfort zone, I'm going to challenge you today to take a sketchbook out and go draw some things that you're a little bit more uncomfortable with. Whether it's foliage, flowers, maybe walkways, maybe something that's super consistent and repetitive like fence line or roofs. Just brainstorm different ways that you can use to solve that texture problem so that the next time that you approach that problem, it's not quite so intimidating and you don't freeze up and then go on kindergarten autopilot. So those are my 3 favorite tips for drawing architecture. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We have a lot more realistic drawing tips coming soon. If you are still here, you have earned an exclusive discount for the architecture drawing course. I will have that code linked in the description, as well as a link to the updated course whenever that goes live. Anyway, I hope that you are having a wonderful, wonderful day. I can't wait to hear how you improve in your architecture drawing. And until next time, happy drawing. As soon as I find it. Single lump and blump. Lump and blump? Is that too harsh? Oh well, I kind of mean it.